All right, do another quick demo here. I've just set up in the coffee bar because it's Good Friday and we're not open. Normally I'm at my cupping table. So I've got my kettle here. It's just off boil. When I say just off boil, I have a digital scale that's set at 200 Fahrenheit. Use Fahrenheit. It's easier to get precise if you have the ability with your scale. What I'm doing here is I've got my 33 grams of coffee for my 2 cup in my decanter, and my 33 grams in there, and I've added about, looks like 80 grams of actually more like, I started with 33, so about 50 grams of water. I've just gotten the coffee wet and I've waited, I don't know, 20 seconds or so. So back to my comments about the water, just off boil. If you have a kettle where you've got the water rolling in a boil, you need to bring it down a bit. That's too hot. So rolling boil is significantly higher than 200 Fahrenheit. So 200, 202, 203 Fahrenheit. By the time you start pouring is probably what you're looking for. A kettle that's a rolling boil that's several degrees warmer, you want to cool that down a little bit. So I added my initial 50 or so grams, waited about 20 or 30 seconds, and then I've started to add more coffee. As we go along, I add more and more until I bring the coffee kind of crust, we call it, to the top of the filter, or closer to the top of the filter. And I'm not breaking into the edge there. So I've mentioned that a few times. Don't pour to the edge. We want to leave a nice crust barrier. And we have a nice crust in what's called a bloom, because this coffee was roasted. Looks like the Ethiopia Yurga Shafe was roasted on the 31st here. So what you're looking for is a coffee that's not old, and grind it fresh each time. If you grind your coffee and wait, our rule is if you were to grind coffee more than 20 minutes ago, really, you really shouldn't serve it because you're allowing it to rapidly stale. So coffee that's a month old is stale. 6 weeks old, that's stale. It's generally oily on the surface. That's an indication the whole coffee bean is staled. But when you grind coffee, it can stale in 30 minutes because you're just releasing all those flavors, all those aromas, all those oils. Everything's being damaged once you grind it. So when you grind it, it's ready for brewing. It's ready for brewing immediately, right? Not 2 hours later. So just pretty simple, keep adding as I go. Again, some people have possibly been having some problems with the water being too hot. That's something to watch if you're using a home type kettle. So off boil, so if it's a rolling boil, it's too hot. Let it cool down. And that's about it. We're almost full on my decanter here. Again, this is an expensive scale. You don't have to use an expensive scale. This one has a timer if you want to time your brewing. You go into a cafe, that's what they'll do, is they'll time it and weigh it. I generally stop at about 720 grams when I brew. And there I'm at 730. So I eyeball it. That's what happens when you've been doing this for 20 some odd years. And that's about it. So again, always look for whole bean, always look for fresh coffee. You can tell it's fresh if the roaster's being transparent and doing two things. One, giving you a visible to look at it and make sure the beans aren't oily. And two, giving you the day it was roasted. Cinnamon buns are great fresh out of the oven. If you pick the cinnamon buns off the shelf and they were out of the oven 2 weeks ago, they're not going to be as good. It's the same kind of thing. All right, it's Good Friday. We're not open, but have a good Easter weekend. Be safe and enjoy good coffee. This is Dave, your green bean buyer and roaster. Have a good day.